Hi, everyone. Super excited to be moderating this panel. We're going to try sit in the right order here. With me today, we have some fantastic investors, and I know we also have some in the audience, and lots of founders as well, and also leaders and enterprise. So excited to include you. We'll try open up at the last 5 minutes of the panel to the audience, so start thinking of your questions. Amazing. Well, I'll probably start with an intro to myself, and then I'll hand over to intros also to the panelists. So I'm head of platform at Fabric Ventures. We're a Web3 native VC firm, but also investing within AI. So the open web is what we like to say. We've been investing since 2012, and our first fund was in 2017, and our second in 2021. And we invest across the board from seed to Series A. My background is VC, so I was at Web2 VC prior to that, called Connect Ventures. And I actually also, a long time ago in a past life, built a community of 8,000 women called Female Founders Fair. The Instagram still exists. And yeah, I'm going to introduce the amazing panelists. We've got a fantastic group of varied experience. So we've got Camilla, who's more from an angel and operator perspective. Many of you I know already know her. Ash, very much VC and investing centric. Before I know Camilla, I'll let you introduce yourself from a VC background. But Ash is now currently at Local Globe, which is a fantastic VC firm. And prior to that was at Polygon. And we've also got Lata from the investment team at Fabric. So I'm going to hand over to you all one by one, just to give kind of a little bit more insight into your backgrounds.
Yeah, sounds good. Happy to go first. Really nice to be here. Incredible to see so many familiar faces. As Eleanor mentioned, I am the youngest partner at Local Globe. We did the seed for Twitter, Figma, Robinhood, etc. back in the day. So oldest, largest VC based out of EMEA. I got into the crypto space in 2017. So started out as a crypto trader while I was actually a day trader at Citi. And then started my own prop trading shop, did a lot of emerging tech investing, which did not necessarily include Web3 back in the day. And then it all just came together. I was investments lead at Polygon, ran the $100 million fund, deployed in early stage Web3 companies globally, got lucky, hit a few unicorns, and now I'm running open source AI and blockchain for Local Globe.
Amazing. I'm Camilla. I spent most of my career before crypto at a hedge fund called Bridgewater Associates, and fell down the proverbial rabbit hole sometime around 2015, 2016, after Ethereum launched, and made the move to work at the early sort of Ethereum community at Consensus in about 2017. I decided to make the move from hedge fund into the building operating side, because then, unless you were building an algorithmic-focused trading fund, it was just way more interesting to be on that side of it, because it was really in its primordial phase. And I've spent most of the last 7 years helping to grow the early Ethereum ecosystem, launching things you guys might be users of, like MetaMask wallet, and some developer tooling within Ethereum. And then about 4 years ago, helped start Serotonin, an advisory business to work with a lot of great companies across all parts of crypto, including our incubator that we spun out our first software project, Mojito, building out SaaS for enterprise brands, Web3 SaaS. And am now an advisor to both, an advisor to Fabric and a few other funds, and doing some angel investing and advising. And so can speak a bit from the operator side as well as one of the investing side at the moment.
Yeah, and Fabric, we love having Camilla on board as an advisor. And yeah, I'm.
You have to say that.
Everyone knows how great Camilla is. And yes, I'm Fabric. Eleanor already gave a lovely introduction there, but thank you all for joining us at this event. I'm on the investment team, focus more on, I guess, the application layer and consumer side of what we do. I really love crypto, so outside of the day job, I guess, I work with She256, part of the core team, and we work with some of the biggest protocols such as Optimism and DAOs such as Uniswap, ENS, Compound. We also work with Base and Gauntlet to really bring a new type of DNI framework to decentralized governance and really bring in like underrepresented communities to be like a driving force behind this new style of organization. Outside of that, I'm also part of Social Graph Ventures. We're an investment DAO focused on angel investing into open social graphs, which has been a really exciting new area of crypto to emerge really over the last year.
Thank you so much, everyone, for the intros. I think we're going to start quite high level. I think what the audience, given there's a lot of founders in the room, would love to know is actually, in the last 12 to 24 months, how's the market actually shifted, and what are you sort of seeing?
Yeah, I think that question is basically directed at me. The fact that I actually sort of joined like a Web2 native fund coming from Polygon was also symbolic of the fact that there were like very few quality companies that were building at the time. We just didn't see the same kind of innovation that we were seeing prior to that. The last 24 months, there's been a somewhat of an evolution, I think. So, I mean, every single bear market, the last 3 bear markets that I've seen, you'd see like a dip in deal flow, you'll see a reduction in valuations, you'll see sort of less talent moving into these companies. But this time, we saw a large number of founders continuously building. Larger, sort of longer runways that were given to all of these founders between 2020 and 2022, which enabled them to actually last another year, 2 years, and just kind of surface through the bear market. And now that the markets are pumping again, so that's a great New Year's present for all of us. There's hope that, again, the same sort of cycle starts, which we saw especially in alt layer 1s and layer 2s, but this time around with more middleware companies that will actually enable those infrastructure to be used by consumer applications, which is eventually what I think the goal here is for everyone. Funding definitely in terms of stats reduced by, I think, about 65%. I could be a little 5% here or there on that one. But yeah, between 2022 and 23, but just Q1 24, there's already been a rise, significant rise. There are about 3 rounds that have happened that are like seed rounds of like north of $100 million value, like sort of capital raised in the last 1 quarter. I don't think they've been announced yet. Maybe one of them has. But yeah, so basically that is symbolic again of the kind of capital that's coming back, and sort of there would be inertia, but then again the talent would follow. So really, really excited about it this year.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a couple ways to answer this question. One is from like what you see on the VC investing side, and then what's happening with the founders and the businesses that are launching. If you just look at the amount of VC money that's flown into crypto since, let's say, 2020, I think it was $5 billion, and then 2021 was about 25 billion. Like an insane rise in fervor as token prices were shooting up and crypto became part of the zeitgeist in 2021. Everyone was bored at home playing with this stuff. That's, I'm sure, when a lot of people either got into it that are in this room or really like got into it. 2022 was similarly, I think about 26 billion, around the same. A lot of that was in the beginning of the year because then we had the unwinding of Luna and FTX and everybody got cold feet. And then last year was back down to 10 billion. And so it's been a wild ride from the VC investing side. And what I'm seeing a lot of on the startup side and companies launching is that, exactly as you said, a lot of them did these monster fundraises in 2021, early 2022. They had it, and a lot of that talent came from traditional tech, or it was second-time founders in crypto. And so it was enough to kind of like bridge this 1.5-year gap, which got pretty grim at times in terms of just on-chain activity and usage, and not to mention token prices. And now, especially because we work with a lot of these companies on the serotonin side about their announcements and their go-to-market, there's a lot of announcements coming up. And there's a lot of product launches that have been delayed because they want to launch into a better market. There's a lot of things, basically, as they always say, the bear market's for builders. And so the timing kind of worked out perfectly if you were a founder in the space, where you raised the capital you needed to bring your business to reality. And you did it in a really non-distracting environment, because I'm sure, as you've seen, bull markets are really distracting for any industry participant, because you're trying to do your job and then there's, someone's become an overnight millionaire on dog with hat and bonk, and that's all happening. And you don't know where to focus your attention. And so it's been a really great time for builders to build robust products that are all about to come to market and are already starting to. And so I think it'll be a really interesting market. You never know how the next sort of bull is going to unfold and if it's really truly here to stay at the moment, but I think it is. And I think from the angel side as well, you're seeing some really interesting founders coming back to market that are having more responsible fundraisers as well. They realize that the money they raised, they need to prove results and traction quickly, and so they're a bit more responsible about that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would echo what's already been said. And I know VCs always say this, but it really is an interesting time right now to be investing at the early stage. Over the last year at the early stage, median valuations have been down, but median round sizes have been rising. And I think it's been a real testament to, I mean, hopefully you guys see this too, where value-aligned partners are really getting on board with early-stage companies, and I think there's some really exciting opportunities there to find the right partner and build something really amazing. And I think the one thing I would say is we just had a quick rewind through the last couple of years and the crazy markets, and I don't think that goes unnoticed. So I think it's quite an interesting time now to, if you are a builder who's been building through quite a brutal time in the space, like that doesn't go unnoticed when it comes to raising. And I think that's a really unique edge for founders who are interested in raising today.
Thank you so much. I think the common thread there really is essentially now is a great time. We're back in a bull market, hopefully, fingers crossed, that is here to stay. And so, if you are thinking about raising, to Noelle's point earlier, only 2% of funding goes to VC businesses. So what I really want to sort of ask here is, what are female founders doing wrong when they're going out and they're pitching, they're sharing decks, and how can we sort of redirect that? Camilla, I can see you're eager, so we'll start with you.
I'm happy to take a first crack at it. It's certainly not that people are seeing equal deals and only 2% of the women are getting chosen. There's just far fewer deals from female founders. And I don't know if the 2% is unique to crypto or largely VC. It probably both, to be honest. It's just, I think it probably for a couple of reasons. I think most of crypto over the last 7 years has been innovation at the infrastructure level. Like, as a technology, it's very deep in the tech stack. It sits right above hardware. It's very far from the layers that people can actually touch and interact at the application layer, which is what we all think of as tech. And traditionally, those back-end engineers, the people that are drawn to those kinds of problem solving, are traditionally majority men. And so it's kind of been an industry built by back-end engineers, and it probably will be for another cycle or two, because there's a lot that needs to be figured out there. The industry at large still doesn't even know which blockchains people are going to use or what that's even going to look like, with a lot happening at the layer 2 level. And so I think a lot of what's been real and what's been built has been deep infrastructure stuff, deep cryptography stuff, which is also traditionally male. I think with some exceptions. I've happened to have worked with almost only female founders and CEOs and executives in my career in crypto, which I know is not the norm. The founder of Serotonin, the founder of Mojito, the founder of almost all of our incubated companies. And it's not even I wish it was. It wasn't even a mandate that we set out to do. It was just some of the best founders. So the female founders that you do find in crypto are built different. They eat broken glass for breakfast, and they are drawn to the problem that they are solving and want to bring into the world, not because they see anybody else that looks like them doing it, because they truly can't live another day until that thing is built. In fact, headwinds against them, and so they're often amazing founders to work with. And then my last point is, as blockchain does come up that stack, you are already seeing at the consumer level, which I'm sure Lata can speak a lot more to, a lot more founders that are women, because those are problems at the consumer layer that are from industries that are traditionally predominantly female, like the digital fashion side or the consumer side or the social side. So it's getting a little bit better than it has been, but I'm not surprised by that statistic. And it's not because you're seeing equal deal flow. It's just sort of the reality, unfortunate reality.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely echo that. And there's been some really amazing female talent raising, like in the deep tech space over the last year or so, with some monster raises, but definitely not equal deal flow there. When it comes to pitching, I do think one thing probably worth highlighting is when it comes to a man pitching to a VC, there is an assumed level of technical knowledge. You assume there are software engineers, some developer experience, and I don't think women get that same level of assumption. And whether you choose to start a company with a really strong CTO, or you choose to, take a stand and comfortably talk about the tech and position yourself as, I know what's going on. I may not be, Stanford grad or whatever. I do think that that's something that perhaps in positioning is something to think about and prepare for when pitching to VCs. But at the end of the day, there are so many different, unimaginable consumer experiences, social experiences, things that can be built with this tech. And I really think there's going to be some exciting new opportunities that men aren't going to think about. If you think about who uses social media today, it's overwhelmingly female. So many consumer products over the last year have been driven by usage by women. And so I think it's only natural that that's going to change over the next few years.
Yeah, I think absolutely, completely on the same page. I think specifically to the point about the technical talent in crypto in general, I joined Developer DAO like back in 2018, and I was, I think, one of 100 women out of like 10,000 men. So yeah, that's pretty much, I think, in line with the stat that we are discussing right now as well. So yeah, I think it's definitely something. If you look at the top 50, top 100 cryptographers in the world, I've never seen a single female name on that list ever. Every single year that list comes out, and I've never seen a woman's name on it. So it's just something that, from a technical perspective, the fact that we are very early still, I know it's very cliche to say this in crypto now, but we are still very early. We need more of infra and middleware to be built out, and then we look at the talent, and the talent is predominantly male. All of that completely checks out. A couple of other things in my mind that are running right now. There's this one, I think 2% is, by the way, overall VC, if I remember correctly, right? There's this one piece by HBR that sort of spoke volumes to me, and this is, I think, came out last year sometime, which basically talks about how female VCs, and speaking as a female VC, I can understand why this bias also comes in. Female VCs end up investing more into female founders than male VCs, and that results in a Series A or Series B bias from male VCs, thinking that, hey, this female VC invested only because the founder is female, which resulted in a statistic globally, by the way, which is bonkers, that female founders who raised from female VCs ended up struggling raising a Series A, as opposed to female VCs who raised from male VCs.
That's so shitty.
I know. It was really bonkers. I can circulate the link. It just, yeah, if you just Google HBR female founders, female VC, it'll come up. Yeah, don't Google right now. I mean, so many videos. But yeah, I think that's just one thing that we have seen in the industry at large. Not a lot of men here, except for sort of a few really good-looking men that I see. But there is definitely a bias that exists in male VCs, and that comes out even in conversations. When I'm speaking to somebody who's doing, so I do open source AI as well, and AI is all the hype for the last 12 months. Every single male VC I speak to, I ask them point blank, how many female founders have you invested in or spoken to? One, maybe two. And if you look at the same number for men, is like 10 to 20. So that right there, there's just like a very, very clear bias that I think still very much exists and has to be addressed. But I think the only way to do that is to have more female VCs, so that, you know, the person on the other side of the table understands the stuff that you go through and also goes through something very similar. So yeah, I mean, at our fund, for example, we are like the only fund, I think, in Europe that has more than 40% female in leadership, which is exceptionally rare. But that's sad that it's rare. That's basically what it is.
Just to add one thing on the other side of this, because I completely agree with everything, and it's not great. I messaged this morning that probably the least interesting thing about me and my career in crypto is that I'm a woman. The same way that it's not that interesting the founder of Ethereum is a blonde, but it does matter because there's so few, and it really is sort of Lord of the Flies in a man's world. But the advantage of that, and Lata and I were speaking about this, in our industry, if you're seeing deal flow of a female founder, or even if you're at all these conferences that crypto loves to host, everyone always remembers you.
For sure.
Because they met maybe 5 women that week. Yeah. And they met a sea of men, probably all wearing the same T-shirt, having the same conversations. And so the amount of times I've been to a conference and everybody remembers my name, and they're just a sea of the same faces, there are some advantages out there. You do stick out, but you definitely are fighting uphill from a lot of biases.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. I agree that we need to sort of also internally promote more women within VC firms. And there's so much that we can discuss in terms of like unconscious biases and how we actually educate our male colleagues, etc. But we've only got 30 minutes. So with that, I also know within the room, so we've sort of touched upon some tangible advice for founders. We've got probably some future female founders who haven't started businesses yet. Lata, you also sort of started to speak about some areas that are interesting for females and women to build within. But maybe you could touch upon opportunities for women within this space and why Web3 might be uniquely interesting for women.
Yeah, I mean, I'm personally super excited, especially on I'm going to call it the like -1 to 0 stage of a founder's journey. I think that in this industry, there's actually quite a lot of female talent in some of the larger companies that maybe haven't thought about becoming an entrepreneur, or maybe have an idea but not really sure where to start. And I really think there's a lot of, you have all three of us here today. There's a lot of women in the room who can share journeys of being an entrepreneur. And I think that that's a really exciting space to start leveraging some of this female network, not to be totally reductive. And yeah, I mean, Camilla and I were talking yesterday about community building, and I'll let her, given her extensive history with serotonin, on that. But there's some really exciting opportunities to build communities in this space. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to say what is the most exciting thing to be built, because I know that's for you guys to come up with. But yeah, in social, consumer experiences, and I know Ash touched a bit on the middleware, there's still a lot to be built. And yeah, I mean, I'm just really excited now. I'm just talking.
No, I think to what Lata was saying, because I think it's very true, is and again, like, it's crypto. We shouldn't care. It's an equalizer. It comes from people with all different backgrounds. Many people are anonymous online, but it does. And what I found in my experience is that there's a natural element to women in the way that they build community, not just with each other, but in general. And I found, especially as an investor recently, but also working with probably over 40 founders in their journeys, and what they're doing is, there's less of an ego game when I'm working with mostly male founders. And so many people reach out to me for things, for advice, for consulting, for questions, for funds, for whatever it might be, for capital, in a way that they probably wouldn't with other men, just because whatever like shape we cut in this space is just kind of a unique one and a differentiating one. And so I've been able to get into really interesting conversations in rooms and partnerships as a result of that. And a lot of that comes from sort of just a natural inclination to what I'll call, obviously this is a massive generalization, but just more sort of like community building that women tend to tend towards too, especially in leadership positions.
Yeah, I think that's completely bang on. I think another thing that I've noticed is the way, like having sat through like thousands of pitches, the way a male founder pitches versus a female founder. The male founder's sort of, like vision starts at a level where the female founder's vision kind of ends in terms of just their selling techniques. Like, sort of the founders would just kind of promise the sun and the moon and everything, while the female founders would be like more practical, more realistic, more sort of confident in their own abilities to a point that it's achievable, while a male founder would literally say, yeah, that is easy. Everything else on top I can just figure out, right? Like that's basically just like I'm strictly talking about like body language and words here in like the first 30-minute conversation, which is something I think I tell every single female founder in my portfolio. Do your best to oversell the shit out of yourself in like a Series A or a Series B sort of conversation. I think that right there is also like a way in which women in general operate. And again, like I said, I think it's important that the person on the other side of the table understands that their vision is not small. They're just being more realistic and practical about it. Instead of saying that, oh, it's like a $50 billion market, let's just say it's a $1 billion market. It'll still be a bloody unicorn, right? Like, it's fine. So I think that perspective is just very rare. And I think another thing is, in general, the language, etc., especially so I've been a gamer since I was like preteen, I think. A lot of the gaming communities, a lot of the other sort of, crypto, even non-crypto communities, they are just very unsafe / uncomfortable for women. And it's just very important to actually have an environment where sort of women can collaborate and work together as well, which I think is, there are a few in crypto, but they are still not sort of large or mainstream enough where they can actually feel like there are operators who are sort of building in like Web3 companies. They have an idea where they feel comfortable bouncing off this idea with other people, not really scared of like sort of, the idea being stolen or like the idea just kind of, sort of being like embarrassing or whatever. Like I've seen this. I've actually signed NDAs with like a couple of female founders because they were just scared to disclose their idea. It's just, this is not something you see with men. Men would be like, oh, I have this idea, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna be the next Elon Musk. Like, it's just something.
Total addressable market, the world.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Elon, it's like world and moon and Mars and whatnot, right? Like, basically, it's just a different DNA. And I think it's very, very essential that we take this opportunity because now we are about to come to a platform in terms of crypto, in terms of open web, in terms of AI, everything, where there is a very clear demarcation that we need more female talent to be a part of these companies. And that right there is our opportunity to actually come together, collaborate, be confident in our abilities, not be embarrassed, and just kind of throw a lot of ideas out into the universe.
Yeah. And just to add to that, I wouldn't even say that it's like some sort of D&I initiative. It's literally the biggest consumer group in the world is women.
Yeah.
Full stop, of anything. And so for the fact that the future of our digital spaces, which is a very like asset financial tokenization driven model, is going to be building it without the female consumer in mind, which is like kind of mostly what's happening right now, is just bonkers. Like we haven't even begun to think about marketing to and targeting female users in so much of what's being built in crypto. And so that's just like a really huge business opportunity that most of the founders in the space are sort of building stuff for themselves or for like the existing 10,000 active wallets that are doing what's in crypto today. But yet they have the confidence that their addressable market is the world. And so it's this combination where like it really is a business priority for women, for more women to get into crypto and build the future of where our digital spaces are going to be and what digital assets look like.
Thanks so much. I think, yeah, be more bullish is the overarching message there. I want to take the next 5 minutes to really open up the questions to the audience. There's some fantastic women here, and if there are questions, I'm going to definitely facilitate the space, or we are collectively. Anyone? I'll give you the mic.
So I'm Emma Jane, I'm from the BBC. I am a total newbie to this space. What is your advice to somebody that has literally no idea?
Happy to take that one. So we were actually just talking about this right before we sort of came up here. And I fell in love with the book by Chris Dixon, Read, Write, Own. I'm hoping half the audience, or maybe more than half the audience, has read it. For anybody who's in Web3, just kind of, sort of revalidates why you are in the space, why you're excited about it, and what is the actual upside potential. But for anyone, and I have had like a bunch of people text me, and I'm just someone who likes gifting books. I had given like a lot of people the book, and they have literally said that this is like completely new and shocking to anybody who's even like a Web2 tech operator, because it just helps you understand the potential bigger vision of what internet tomorrow would look like. And it's nothing to do with Web3, Web2, Web5. It's all about how people will come together, engage with each other, and at the same time also kind of engage with other kind of asset classes that exist out in the real world. So I think it's a beautiful summary. It's definitely a must read, and I think that's a great place to start. But then again, I don't think anybody needs to go too technical. So I'm a non-tech person myself. Like I'm an economist and like by trade and like a financial undergrad. So yeah, I genuinely don't understand a lot of the coding or the sort of technical jargon that is flown around, but it's all about understanding the fundamental business utility of it and why what is being built is actually required for that utility to come to fruition. So I think it's just that kind of a sort of a series of events where you can just look at the top 20 players and understand what exactly are they trying to achieve here instead of just speculating certain type of tokens. So I think honestly that's just more than enough. I think if you start with the book and like the top 20 players in the space, that should give you a very good entry into the space.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it's a great book that's sitting on my bookshelf, and I will go home and read now. And yeah, I mean, I had this similarly with I have a twin sister who has no interest in crypto whatsoever. I managed to convince her to buy Bitcoin, and she sold it as soon as the FTX scandal happened. But I think just like for AI, how it was applications like ChatGPT and Midjourney that kind of made people understand what's going on. I would say that some of the digital art that's available on the blockchain is quite exciting. I think there's some really beautiful pieces of generative art, and even people taking that further to stuff like generative fashion, which uses the blockchain to create like unique patterns and garments, which then get created into like totally unique pieces of clothing. You can I think it's on FX Hash. I don't know if it's open at the moment, but you can record a voice note and create a totally unique and very beautiful scarf from it. And that's something that I've been using to kind of, I guess, tease some of my friends into experiencing, because, I mean, fashion and art is what they're interested in anyway. So why should we not look at the more digitally native versions of that as like the first foray into the space?
Yeah, and I would add to, I think, a lot of what you guys are saying. There's a very big difference between money crypto and tech crypto. And they're related, of course, because tokens power decentralized blockchains. That's kind of how they run with the incentives. But you don't really need to dive into that. Like, the killer application for the blockchain, like what it literally empowers for the first time ever, is digital ownership. Truly custodying something in your own possession, like the digital equivalent of under your mattress, for the first time ever. And it's really just that simple. The first use case of it has been like currencies and tokens and speculation. We're just starting to see that move into digital art and to consumer data and to things that we're about to hear about on the next panel. But like, there's a lot of people that do just the currency token Bitcoin trading side that know nothing about blockchains. And there's a lot of people that are building out amazing use cases on the blockchain that can change like the entire financial system that don't involve themselves at all in the currency speculation side. And so often it just gets lumped into one. And so people don't even really know where to start. And they're like, well, I'm not a trader and I don't know tech and I don't know finance. But there's a lot in there. And I would say the best way is always to approach it as a student from the blockchain tech side and what that's going to change.
Yeah, some great advice there. I'll do a little plug-in as well, because Lauren's sitting opposite me, who also runs a podcast, Women in Web3, all around education. There's some great guests. I think we have time. Sorry. I think we have time for one more question, and then we're going to probably have to wrap up, but you'll be around a little bit for networking. Amazing. Your hand was up first.
So I'm actually building a consumer space, socialized Web3 publishing writing platform. We find ourselves actually having to carry a lot of burden that comes with the Web3 narrative when we talk to our customers, when we talk to our users. How do you think, so we're doing the best that we can, we abstract away of that Web3 language, but still we have to sell them on why this is good for the work that they're doing. So we can't really fully just get rid of that ID. But how do you think on a kind of more systems level, how can we, really work against the negative publicity, that impression that the general masses that we want to bring into Web3 that they currently have of the space?
I'm happy to take a crack at this from the serotonin side, because we work with a lot of brands on their messaging and positioning. It's going to take a while to get away from like the crypto bro moniker of people thinking just like £500,000 and JPEGs of apes are stupid and this is all BS and it doesn't work. I would just say don't mention it. Like, if you're building at the application layer, it's selling to consumers or even B2B enterprise SaaS. Having it be built on the blockchain is kind of one of the least interesting things about your thing. It's like saying what cloud provider you use for your app today. It's like just kind of not relevant to the problem you're trying to solve. I mean, put it in the FAQ at the bottom maybe for those that do think it's cool and are interested and maybe it's an advantage. But for the most part, just focus on what you're unlocking. Like, and you don't even need to go why blockchain, but the things that blockchain allow you to do that weren't previously possible from a tech perspective, which is, I'm sure, why you're passionate in building it. Lean into that and the use case and what you're solving, and then you can kind of bury the how you're solving it from the tech stack perspective, because that's all that really is. And also, you should chat with a woman from the BBC.
Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of like the real crux today is how do you leverage the benefits of the blockchain whilst also abstracting it away for users. I do think that's a hard problem. But Misha, I can't see where she is, but we were chatting earlier and she was telling me about how EE are currently using like decentralized verifiable credentials to build out a new identity solution. And they're not using any crypto language. It's literally just the benefits of the tech are so strong that it's an opportunity for them. And so I do think the time will come where you don't need to, I guess, apologize for crypto is a harsh way of putting it, but I think it's probably where we're at now. And, there are some really exciting things that you guys can build and you will build, and they will be useful. And the marketing is everything in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to quickly add to that, the number of pitch decks with the word crypto and blockchain that I see are very far and few now. They are like, especially on the consumer side, especially on the consumer side, I rarely see any mention of that. Ultimately, that is something that you get to learn about the business and the conversations to understand, okay, how unit economics would work and how would you make money, etc. But like until that point, you don't really need to kind of, sort of be the one sort of flag bearer of crypto and like deal with it entirely yourself. At the same time, if we think of the biggest tech companies in Web 2, push comes to shove, you kind of have to like at some point embrace the tech that you're building on or the environment that you're building in. So like Travis Kalanick, Uber is one of the best examples. They were like 4 failed taxi companies. There were sort of no startups that were able to kind of deal with TLC in the US. And still like he managed to kind of do that. So it's now sort of like, a story for the ages. His name went down in the book. So like maybe try to kind of feel inspired enough to do that. So I think honestly, I would imagine like the founder that is able to fix the narrative the way I see it would actually go on to be incredibly successful. And I mean, I'm a huge Vitalik fan, but I don't think he's done that yet. So I think there is still definitely room to grow. And I'm hoping it's a woman this time.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Well, big round of applause for Ash, Camilla, and Lata. Thank you.